Hey everyone, Dan, Gnarly Chicken Garage. Today is TE300 maintenance day. My 21 TPI, I'm gonna take the wheels off and do the bearings and the steering head bearings. Pop the swing arm off, do the linkage, swing arm bearings, just some winter maintenance. Not gonna take the motor out, did the starter last year, so it should be fine. Got a fire on in the shop. A balmy minus 16 Celsius outside. Let's get at her. Front wheel off, axle out, of course. Spacers, all with still grease left on them from last year. Pop these dust seals off with the trusty, one of the best tools I've got here. I can clean them up and repack them. Probably don't need to, but going to anyway. Let's take a look at this bearing on the front wheel. Yeah, I'd say that is still good. Don't have to repack that because I've already done it halfway through the summer. So good, I can put that back in, close her up. Okay, rear wheel off on the bench. Took the dust caps off, and that is the grease from last summer, so no need to repack that. I'll check the other side, but I'm sure it's the same. Moving right along, got the forks off. Gonna take the trip trees off here next and drop this off. Steering, everything put on the bench. Re-clean the races and the bearings. I'm sure they're fine, but gonna do it anyway. Brakes hanging down there. Did a brake job to that last summer, so that's fine. Got all my fasteners sitting in some WD. When these are ready to go, I'm just going to run them through a tap right here. So I'll find the right tap, put it in the vise, and just chase these threads through, and that'll clean them right up just like new again. All right, triple clamps out. Clean the bottom tree. The bearing was nicely greased still from last year, but I cleaned it up a little. I'll repack that. Clean the stem off. Took the upper bearing off. That was nicely greased too. I've cleaned it a little bit, but I'm not going to go crazy, but I'll re-grease that. Those pieces are all cleaned. And this is looking good, so I'll give that a little another dab of grease. The inside is fine, as is the bottom. So a whole lot easier to keep maintenance and not have to replace bearings. And you know, you guys have replaced this bearing. It's a pain in the butt. You got to cut that off and pry it off, and sometimes the puller works and sometimes it doesn't. I end up usually just grinding it off and pulling it off, but don't have to. Doing this twice a year, and these bearings are stock at 70 hours ago. So I'll repack them both and put them back together. Greased up. And the upper bearing repacked, put back in. Now just slide that triple back in and follow the process for tightening these. It's in the owner's manual. There's a sequence, especially with the triple clamps when you put your forks back in. Very important. So this little trick that Chicken just told me about, I've never done this before. For years, whenever I take fasteners out, I clean them with picks and WD-40 and spray them off. But anyway, get yourself, if you got a tap and die kit, your M8, and stick that in your vise. And I've had these sitting in WD-40 now for probably an hour or so, all the fasteners. And great way to clean the threads off. Just thread them down through. Make sure you got the right measurement. Like I said, these are M8 bolts. Down. Bring them back up. Now I've already put this through once. This is the second time. And that just nicely takes all the grit and crap, a lot of it, out of your threads. And then just clean them off with a rag and good to go. So there's two of them that are cleaned as opposed to one that I'm about to clean. So yeah, good little trick right there. Day one maintenance complete. Front end is all back together. Everything's torqued down here. So just to point you guys, if you're taking your forks off, you can tighten these first, these second. But if you're taking your triple clamps off as well, there's a process. So once you've got everything back on and in place, you're just gonna snug this down by hand. You get your forks back in. And once everything's there and lined up properly, you're gonna start with this guy here first on both sides. So 1, 2, the pinch bolt 3, and the top clamps 4 in that order. Okay, so 15 Newton meters, 12 Newton meters, 17 Newton meters, 17 Newton meters. Everything that come off this front end, I soaked in WD-40, and then I ran each bolt through a tap and cleaned all those threads out after 4 years of driving, 3 years. And just look how nice and shiny they are now. And chase them through and clean the threads, but they went in super easy once I did, and I know that I got a perfect torque on them. So keep that in mind when you're putting everything back together, that they do go in a certain order. If you put these on in the wrong order, there's a good chance your forks won't be lined up properly. Okay, so obviously you're gonna line them up at the bottom, and there's a method for doing that. And then, like I just said, on the top, make sure you follow the directions in the manual and do those in sequence.